Anybody that has ever played a gacha game, you can contest that gachas suck. Yes, rolling the gacha absolutely sucks, especially if you play Fate Grand Order. My gosh, that gacha sucks so much. But what better way to celebrate the wonders of gacha games than to have an entire series about a guy that has such terrible luck with his unlimited gacha that he rolls nothing but crappy CEs until one day, finally, he hits pity. He finally hits pity and manages to summon what looks like Hestia, but grown up and bigger. Yes, an anime adaptation of one of the longest light novel titles ever. Backstabbed in a backwater dungeon, my trusted companions try to kill me, but thanks to the gift of an unlimited gacha, I got level 9999 friends, and I'm out for revenge on my former party members and the world. Yes, that entire thing is the title. But yes, I've watched the first episode of this new anime adaptation, and yes, it's pretty much another one of those. But there's still some glimmers of hope here and there. This is the idea of being horribly treated by your former party before the guy rises up in order to be OP. Yeah, sort of an off-ret type of thing here. But this is my thoughts on it so far. The series opens up in the world where this goddess created the light upon the world, created the continent in which the 9 races live upon. And we zero in on Light, who is this young boy who leaves home in order to seek out to become an adventurer so that he can provide for his family back at home. When he arrives at the big city, he gets the rude awakening that, yes, humans in this world are looked down upon. There's a lot of discrimination amongst them as being sort of the lowly race of the entire pool. But he doesn't let that keep him down. He goes to the Adventure Guild, signs up, gets F rank, and that's when the receptionist asks him, do you have any gifts? And yes, he says, I do. Unlimited gacha. To which he does an example of it, which brings up this little thing. He presses the button, and suddenly something randomly appears, just like a gacha. And yes, it produces a fork, which turns into a bent fork. He produces an apple, which turns into a rotten apple. And he produces bread, which turns into rotten bread. He's like, well, it's not usually this bad, but yeah, that's my skill. To which, again, she keeps him at rank F. And that's when he asks about some jobs, and very quickly she picks up on the fact that because he's a human, yes, human literacy rate is really low, so she decides to kind of walk him through some jobs that he can have, which is pretty much just moving dirt and resources and whatnot. At the end of the day, he scrounges up enough money just to have a place to stay at before he bumps into some beast folk that end up taking away his money. But things look up, because as he's sitting there, kind of heartbroken, losing all of his money being stolen from him, a party comes before him. A group known as the Concord of Tribes. Now, their whole deal is that they want to make a group that pretty much represents all 9 races, and they don't have a human, and thus they want to recruit him. And at first, he doesn't really believe this, and even the elf comes before him and even gives him a hug, which is kind of shocking because he's covered in dirt. But they claim their whole purpose is to put an end to all racial discrimination and make a world for everyone. And sure enough, he finds this too good to be true. Joins the party, they treat him really well, they kind of help him with some stuff, and eventually they decide to bring him to one of the toughest and largest dungeons in the world, the Abyss. The entire time they're trying to protect him, make sure he doesn't step out of line, because just getting touched once, he's probably going to die instantly. All until they reach a certain point in the dungeon, at which point they say, it's over. It's time for him to be banished from the party. And he's confused by this. Wait, I thought we were friends. You're all nice to me. Even the elf is like all doki doki for him all the time and blushing and always looking out for him. Why suddenly do they want him banished from the party? Well, it seems like this is all a facade. Their superiors seen his gacha ability, and they wanted to make sure that he wasn't what they call a maestro. Somebody that was going to have some incredible ability. And he's like, well, what are you talking about? You know that my gacha ability is useless. I said that already. But it seems like their superior wanted to confirm that it was just a useless gacha ability, that it was never going to produce anything from it that was going to be special. And now it's time to get rid of him. So their whole plan was to pretty much ditch him, injure him enough, and leave him behind this abyss dungeon, and then claim that, yes, he got killed by a monster. While he's fleeing, he ends up touching a teleportation trap before he's teleported to like the deepest part of the dungeon itself, and he's confronted by a level 1000 mob. He's ticked off at this point, wants his revenge, and doesn't want to give up now, and so he starts to roll gacha over and over again until, boom, suddenly out of nowhere, a level 9999 servant shows up out of nowhere and one-shots the doggy in front of her and saves his life. What follows this is this servant that's level 9999, this maid May, claims that he's her master and that she's going to do everything that she can to help him out, even heals him up and everything. She also uses her appraisal ability to find out the deeper, finer details of his unlimited gacha, to prove to him that it's not actually useless. Sure enough, the actual rates of pulling ultra rare cards and whatnot from this gacha is based on the mana levels around him, and since he's at the deepest part of this abyss, his ability to actually summon things is much higher. So in order for him to get his revenge that he seeks out, he decides to roll a whole bunch of gachas while he's down there and create a kingdom in which he'll be able to rise up and get his revenge against this party and the world itself. And that pretty much wraps up the first episode of, I'm not going to say the entire name again, Mugen Gacha. I think it's called Mugen Gacha. So my thoughts on this series so far. Yes, seen it a million times. Nothing new here so far. Yeah, the whole premise here, the setup itself is super corny, super overplayed. It's the idea of the, go-getting boy, getting out of the village, seeking to do good. Everything is great. And then he's kind of confronted with the harsh realities of the world. That, yes, there's a lot of discrimination upon this world. And this group that he thought was like a beacon of hope, like, these people want to have me a part of the party. They're trying to get rid of this discrimination. Yeah, this is what I've been looking for. This is a great party. They're looking after me or taking care of me. But I think my struggle was really around the idea that they go to this last dungeon, the Abyss dungeon, and I'm assuming that the point in which they were going to the dungeon, the idea was to ditch him down there, but they were still being all, like, nice to him, which didn't make any sense. It was at some point where I'm trying to figure out, well, then why were you playing it up the entire time down the dungeon? Yeah, I can see why they were playing buddy-buddy with him, because they thought that he was going to be a maestro. He was going to be super overpowered, and that apparently the elf was going to have to marry him in order to keep him within the group because he was so powerful, possibly. And so even though they were coming down there in order to get rid of him, for some reason they were all still being super nice to him, and they were playing it up still. All for this one point in the dungeon to suddenly go, it's time to get rid of him. Oh, that was sick, disgusting. Oh my gosh, pew. No, I think if they were planning on getting rid of him, I think they would got rid of that whole act a long time ago. It's not a shock to anybody. This is a very overplayed trope, and I'm kind of sick of it at this point. But now that we're past that, hopefully from here on we'll have something special. It does feel very like Oferetta. Oferetta is the same idea where the main character has the useless ability and he's able to kind of conjure things, and at some point he gets knocked down to the lowest part of the dungeon, manages to survive from down there, and then creates all of his great tools. Just this time, it's a bunch of waifus and armor dude. Building up nation, probably a floating fortress or something like that, going through the world and try to seek some sort of revenge. The question mark is, from this point on, really what is this going to do? The potential really here is the idea that despite the fact that he summons Hestia and she's super OP and she's able to one-shot something that is known as something only in folktales, makes me believe that every one of these 9999 Gacha members that he's going to be summoning will be so overpowered they can basically one-shot anything. They went through the entire group that he was with, and most of them were like, 400 to 500, whereas the Gacha characters he's pulling are going to be 9999. So we're up a digit. We're up a digit. So what exactly can ever go up against him? The trick here seems to be the idea that he's creating OP characters around him with the Gacha, but they're not going to be something he's going to want to use. Mei tells him, they hurt you, you want your revenge, give me the order, I will bring divine retribution upon them. She's ready to go and finish the story. But that would be a very boring story because she could probably reach them before they even get out of the dungeon, and then the story's over. The hook here seems to be the idea that Light himself wants to build himself up. He personally, firsthand, wants to kill them. He wants to kill all of his former party members and get his revenge. And I would assume, based on the premise they've set up so far of the idea of the group that he joined, the Concords of Tribes, he may possibly want to create that world they were creating. He may possibly want to create that equality that the party was claiming they were doing. That seems to be the setup right now. He himself was stupid, naive, weak, probably for some reason never noticed that everybody around the Concord of Tribes were looking at them like, why the hell is a Concord of Tribes hanging out with this lowly human? He, for some reason, didn't see all that stuff the entire time he was with them, because it implies that he was with them for a long time. It wasn't just this dungeon. It was only until way later that they brought him in this dungeon and betrayed him. And for some reason, he never saw the signs on the walls. He never seen that they were using him. So he doesn't want it to be somebody else doing it. He himself wants to pull it off, and that could lead into something interesting. The other thing that I'm kind of assuming here is that him going and taking down this Concord of Tribes, this particular group, is probably going to tick off the entirety of the group, and then you're going to probably get into the idea of him having a lot of power, despite the fact that he is human. They're probably going to get the idea of the maestros, and the kingdom probably not wanting the maestros not to be under their control. There's a lot of things they can get into with what they set up already. It's hard not to have any expectations upon a story that opens up so samey to a lot of other stuff. But I do hope that this was just the hook that wants to have that familiar feel to pull people in before it gets into something good. The light novel doesn't have a very good score either, so I'm I'm not going to have much hope. That said, visually it looks okay. JC Staff's doing a decent job on it, and I just realized that's right. JC Staff made Danmachi, and so the whole is the same character designer. I have to look now. No, it's not. Okay, so it's just JC Staff. JC Staff, there's a little carryover with the design with Hestia, with JC Staff and Danmachi over this show. May just looks straight up like a taller Hestia. It's kind of funny. The designs they show for all the other gacha characters that he's going to end up pulling look pretty solid. So we have the Pepsi-haired monk maid, we have the rifle girl, we have a weird mustached archer guy, a grinning albedo, a gold knight man, a tan girl, a broadsword girl, a Neko mage, and a Terakar mage. Hopefully they have some good chemistry, some good characters, and again, it's not a crappy revenge story that it's going to end up turning on one of those things where they don't actually even hurt anybody. It just turns into him humiliating them or something like that. If you're going to kill him, draw some blood. I want to see some blood drawn. I want to see this actually happen, but I doubt it. I doubt it. Anyways, that's my thoughts so far on my level 9999 unlimited gacha backstabbed in a backwater dungeon. I'm out for revenge. Hope you guys enjoy this video. As always, if you did, hit the like button down below. If you like this content, you want to watch it more, become a member channel. Until next time, I'll take care.